Can anyone tell me what is a function? Come on, guys. I repeated million times.
It's
Yeah.
instruction.
Yeah.
Is
What
like an action.
It is an action indeed. So a function is simply, it's an action. What do I mean by that? It do something. So a function is just a reusable block of code, simply like that. So a function, I can use it again and again and again and again. And you may tell me, but the loop also, we repeat the same code again and again and again. Well, yes, but with function are more reusable. Why? Because we have something called parameter. I can pass the parameter, and after that, I can use the function with whatever I want to. So the result of the function will be different, but the loop all the time it will repeat the same code exactly. Do you understand now the difference between a function and loop? Yes, no?
Yes.
Hello? Okay. So the loop, it will execute the same code exactly again and again and again. But with function, no, we're passing some parameters, so the result, it will be different. So a function, I simply can say it is a reusable, let me add a comment, sorry. It is a reusable block of code. Or it's an action, simply like that. Now, because a function are action, that means when you name your functions, they must start with verb. So the function name must start with a verb. Why? Because it's an action. Is the idea clear? Yeah? No?
Yes, yes.
Good. Now, how many type of function we have in JavaScript? Type of functions in JavaScript. Type of function. We have 3 different type of function in JavaScript. Now, there is some little bit different between them, especially function declaration and arrow function. But for now, we will study them what's the different later a little bit. Now, we will just know how type of function or how many type of function we have. And after that, I will teach you what's the difference between arrow function and function declaration. It's related to something called hoisting, which we didn't study yet. So first, we will take the first type, which is called function declaration. Function declaration. What is function declaration? Well, it's quite simple, actually. So here, what I can say here, I can just say function, and I can give it a name. For example, I can say greeting. And notice the name here, it's a verb, huh? Greeting, or greet, or whatever you want to. Actually, let's say hello, or greet like that, it will be better because it's a verb. I will name it greet1. Why? Because I will create another function. And then a block of code. So simply that's a function. I will use the function declarations or the keyword function. That's why we call it function declaration. Then the name of the function. Then I need parentheses. And then I need curly braces. That's what we call the body of the function. These parentheses are super important, okay? Now here, what do I want to do here? I just want to say hello. So let's just log console.log hello world, for example. Let's save it. It's not formatting, but anyway, so that's what we called function declaration. Why do we call it function declaration? Simply because we are using the keyword function and then we have a name here. Is the idea clear? Yes? No?
Yes.
Good. Now, what you need to understand in function, we have 2 steps all the time. The first step is declaring the function or telling JavaScript that this is a function. And after that, using the function. So now here, if I run my code, nothing will happen. Why? Well, simply, let's go to study instances and let's go to testing here. Go to the index here. If I try to run this code, so let me open this one here. Go to the console. If I try to run this code, nothing happened. Why? Because simply here, I'm just telling JavaScript that this is a function. But now to make the function work, I need to call it. For example, I'll make it super simple. If now you work for my company, I will register your information, so your name, stuff like that, stuff like that, stuff like that, all of them in the computer. But of course, I mean, you will not turn to me. I need to call you. I say, for example, call you by your name, and after that, you will know that I called you, and you will come to me and like that. Is the idea clear what I'm trying to explain? Yes? No?
Yes.
Good. So all the time in function, we have 2 steps. first here, what we declaring the function or telling JavaScript, this is the function. As the second step here, I need to call the function. But how can I call the function? Well, it's quite simple. I just the name of the function and then in parentheses, voila. That's it. And now here, if I go to my console, it will just log here, hello world. And if I just run this one, refresh, click, and voila, hello world. And now it's been executed. So that was the first type of function. So the first type of function, again, it's function declaration. Function declaration here is simply, I'm using the keyword function and the name of the function, parentheses, and then we have curly brace. In curly brace here, that's what we call the body of the function. And here you can do whatever you want to. Here, I'm just console.log in hello world. And of course, to execute the function, I need to call it. But now here I can execute the function a million times if I want to, not just one time. So if I want to execute it again, well, I can do it. It's fine. It's just I will repeat the name of the function again. I can do it a million times. If I go to my code here, refresh. Now I call it how many times? 1, 2, 3, 4. That means 4 times I will have hello world, hello world, hello world, and hello world. That should be simple, right? Yes, no. Yes, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Good, good. Let's go to the second one, what we call function expression. Now, in function expression, we also use a keyword function, but this function has no name. So here I will have no name for this function. I will do the same console.log hello world, as you can see. But the problem here, this function has no name. And because this function has no name, I cannot call it. How can I call it? It doesn't have any name. So what could be the solution?
Create variable.
I can store this function in a variable indeed. So I can just say const, and here I can name it greeting2, for example, or greet2, and voila, I'll save it just in a variable. Voila. What's missing semicolon? I don't have any missing semicolon. Anyway, so as you can see, this function here, it has no name. We call it anonymous function. Anonymous function means a function has no name, simply like that. But now I cannot call this function because simply it has no name. But what I can do here, I can store this function in a variable because the variable simply it's a box. I can store whatever I want to. And here, to call this function now, I will just call this variable because this variable simply is, it will be a function. What inside it will be a function. Now I can, if I go here now, let me comment this one. So, or maybe hello world, I will name it 1, hello world 2. So we know we're coming from which function, 2 like that. Voila, and let's go here to my console, refresh, and hit run. And as you can see, hello world 1, hello world 2. Now, we call this one function expression. Why? Because simply, this function here, all of it, it will be stored in a variable. Because it will be stored in the variable, we just call it function expression. There's
Samir,
no, yes.
in the function expression, even if it's stored in a variable, we must add the parentheses, huh?
All the time with function, you need to add parentheses. If you remember before, I told you there is difference between a property and a method. Method for now, for you, it's a function.
But here it's stored in a variable. That's why I asked.
Yeah,
Okay.
but here we are storing this function in variables. That means this variable, it's function. Now it become a function. So
we
because
must
it
add
become a function,
parentheses. Okay.
yeah, I need to add parentheses. If I don't add parentheses, it will do nothing.
Okay.
Okay. Clear for all of you, the second type of function? Yes, no.
Yes. Yes, but
Good.
Samir, why is underline everything?
Here it's just because I'm using an extension. So this extension called error length. Error length here. What error length is doing here is just going to this guy here, which is called ESLint. And as you can see, we have a lot of rule. And it's just checking this rule, and that's the reason why it's giving me this semi-space, missing space before open brace. That's mean here it just wants some space, and voila. That's what is missing here. Here, it's not an error, it's more warning. It's telling me add a GSDoc comment. I will add GSDoc comment later. Unexpected unnamed function. It's just telling you here, it's better to you name a function here, but that's, I don't want that. Missing semicolon just mean add semicolon here, but normally for the function, we don't add it. Okay.
JS doc? What is JS doc?
I will
comment.
explain now. Wait, I will explain now what is just. Okay, now we know as we have now two type of function declaration, as you can see. A function as in the name of the function, and then here we have parentheses, curly brace the body of the function, and whatever I want to. Well, function expression is just my function. It doesn't have a name. That's what we call anonymous functions. That's mean function we has no name, just function, parentheses, and curly brace and the body of the function, whatever I want to. And of course, to call this function here, which is function expression, I need to call the variable and add parentheses. Now, we don't use this type of function a lot, to be honest. Well, sometimes we use it. Most of the time, either we use this one or arrow function, which is the third type. Arrow function, it's ES6, so it's after 2015, we have a lot of change in JavaScript. And here it's a new syntax. Arrow function is shorter, it's better. Most of the time we use it, especially in React. But that doesn't mean sometimes we use this function as well. But most of the time now we use arrow function. There is a difference between arrow function and function declaration. Is related to something called hoisting, but for now, don't worry about it. I'll explain it later. Just know there is a little bit different between the two. And also, actually, there's difference between as a keyword, this, which you don't know yet. I will explain it later as well. Okay, what is arrow function? Arrow function is quite simple. I will declare a variable const. I will name it greeting3. And here, as you can see, I will say equal. It's very similar to this one, equal. And here I have parentheses. And here I will have equal. This one is equal and greater sign here. Equal and greater sign. But of course, if when I do that, my editor just make it like an arrow. That's the reason why we call it arrow function. So const greeting3, it's equal. I need to put my parentheses. And here equal greater sign, which would make like an arrow. And then have a body of the function. That should be simply like that. And now here to call this function, I'll do the same here. So I'm gonna just do voila, greeting3. And now if I go to my code, I refresh to get the latest update and I run. So hello world 1, hello world 2, hello world 3, and all of them are working. Is the difference between the three type of function is clear? Do you understand them? The difference I will explain later, but do you understand all of this type now? Yes, no.
And with this arrow function, is it possible to start with function, greet3, and so on, or it needs always the variable?
You always need a variable.
Okay.
For arrow function, you always need a variable.
So it's like a mix of those two previous functions.
Actually, sometimes we don't need a variable if we're gonna use it in array method later. But for now here, we need to store it in a, it's just like this one here. I cannot call it. So this one is an anonymous function. This one here, it's a function, but it has no name. So how can I call it? I cannot call it. I need to store it in a variable. But not all the time we need to save it in a variable. We will learn later in array method, we can use it without saving it in a variable. Is the idea clear?
Yeah.
But no, now, if you want to call your function and your function is anonymous, you cannot. You need to assign it to a variable, otherwise you cannot call it. So this is actually a valid function like that, but the problem is I cannot call it. So I need to actually assign it to a variable. Okay, that's the three type of function in JavaScript. Function declaration, function expression. Because this function here, it will reset in value here. I'm not returning anything. It will return undefined, and I'm storing it in a variable. So that's what you call function expression. And then arrow function. Should be simple now, right? Yes, no.
Yes, in theory, yeah.
In theory and in practice, but you will get used to the syntax. It's simple. Okay, now, as you can see, I'm not doing something interesting. This is boring. Why? Because simply, it's just printing hello world 1, hello world 2, hello world 3. Well, I can use loop to do that. But what is interesting about function, I can pass something called parameter. What do I mean by that? Well, I can pass here a name if I want to. So here, when I'm telling JavaScript that's my function here. Okay, this function here, it will take one parameter. That means when I call the function, I need to pass this parameter. So I'm telling here the name. And now here, instead of doing this boring stuff, I can use backtick here. And simply I can say hello and name here. I can use $sign and curly brace and put the name here. You know backtick, right? I did explain backtick. Yes? Do you know backtick or not? So backtick, we've seen that string, you can create them by single quote or double quote. There's no difference between them, but also you can create it using backtick. Backtick allow you to create multiple line if you want to. Also, backtick allow you to insert a variable inside the string. How can I do that? Well, I need to say $sign and curly brace, and I will put the name of the variable here. So it will just put the value of the variable inside the string. That's simply backtick, or what we call string literal. Okay, that's simply it. Now here, as you can see, I'm telling my functions that I'm gonna pass one parameter. And now here, when I call the function, I need to pass one argument. So parameter and arguments are the same, but when I create my function, we call this guy here parameter. But when I just declare the tell JavaScript, this is a function, we call this one parameter. And when I call the function, we go this one argument. But simply they are the same. And now here, as you can see, I can call my function with John. I can call my function with Jane. I can call my function with Doe. And I can call my function with, now my function is more reusable like that, as you can see. Let me comment these two for now. All of them is the same structure. Okay. When it comes to parameter and argument, all of them are the same. And now here, if I go to my console and I refresh and I hit run, hello, John, hello, Jane, hello. So as you can see here, my function, I can reuse it again and again, and I can change whatever here, because the function are actually quite important, because I can pass a different parameter here, and like that, my function, it will work, it will return something differently. Is the idea clear? Yes? No? Hello?
Yes, I just wanted to ask, how many parameters can we add to the
To a
function?
function?
Mhm.
As much as you want.
But instead of this, we can use array.
Yeah, you can use an array and pass everything inside, or even better, an object. You can, but we just didn't study array yet. We didn't study object yet. So
Yeah,
here
but
I can,
I'm asking about best practice. How many parameter can we add to the function?
you can add, I'm telling you, unlimited number.
Mhm.
But most of the time, a good function, so the creator, one of great programmers say, a good function, which is a function has no parameter.
No parameter.
Yes. A good
Okay.
function which has no parameter, but normally you can pass. For me, I think the maximum function I create, it take 5 parameters as a maximum,
5.
6, 5, 6. But
Okay.
you can pass whatever you want to. It's
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
In theory,
you.
you can pass whatever you want to. It's fine, but you need to separate them by comma, by the way. For example, here I want to add age. So hello, my name here, I can update it a little bit. Hello, my name is, and here I can add, and I am age old. And now here, of course, I need to pass the age here, which will be a number 25, for example, John. Jane is 30, she's old. And Doe, he's 35, for example. And now here, if I go to my code, I refresh and I run. And as you can see here, my function, hello, my name is, I need some space here, actually. Some space, and that should work fine now. Clicky, run, and everything is good, as you can see. I'm John, I'm 25, I'm Jane, I'm 30, I'm Doe, I am 35. Is the idea clear? Yes, no.
Yes, it's clear.
But I don't see any response, so you make me like, I don't know, I feel like you're asleep today. Okay, I think the function, type of function are clear now. What make function very, very reusable actually is what we call parameter here, and here we call them argument, as I told you. Now, remember something, if you have like 2 parameter here and you pass one of them, this age, it will be undefined here, okay? It's just like JavaScript. When you declare a variable without any value, it will be undefined, or simply like that. And voila. Normally here, if you have 2, you should pass 2. If you don't need 2, then you shouldn't add a parameter here. I think that's clear here. Any question before I delete this one?
Maybe return.
Return. So some function, sometime we need something back from the function. What do I mean by that? Let's create a new function here and see. So let me remove those. For example, I will take something simple. Do you have anything in mind? Any function which is simple here? Not that complex.
Like if else
Which one?
inside if else inside the function, and it can return something.
Oh, okay, fine. So let's create a function here. I will name it const. Const here. And here I will name it, for example, check age. Check age, it's equal, I will make it an arrow function. And I will pass a parameter, one parameter, which is age, like that, for example. Voila. And in here, so as you can see, my function here, I start with verb check age, and this function here, it take an age as a parameter. And here I will check if the age is 18, I will return something. For example, if age is if age is less than 18, oh no, I just can, for example, return you are not allowed to enter, for example. Else, here you are allowed to, I can just put it inside the else just to not to confuse you. So let me cut this one and put else here. And voila, something simple. Come on. My prettier is not working. Should be a little bit fine now. I know it's not necessary, but anyway. So as you can see here, my function, what is doing, it take an age as a parameter. So I will pass, when I call my function, I will pass an age. And this function here, it will return me something, some string here. It will tell me if this person allowed to enter or not allowed to enter. Okay, because I created this function, and this function, it will tell me if this person is allowed or not. Now from this function, I want this function to return me something. Okay, I want from this function to return, to give me something which will tell me if this person is allowed or not. Let's call my function now. Now, if I call my function now with age 20, it should tell me here, it will return you are allowed to enter. But of course, if I refresh and I go here, I click run, I have nothing. Why? Because simply I'm not logging something to the console. Now here, my function, it will return you are allowed to enter, but I'm not doing anything. If I want to see the result here, I can either save it in a variable or I can just console.log it. So let's just console.log it to make it simple. Log, and voila. And I need to remove this semicolon, and voila. Now here, if I go to my console here, I refresh again, I click, and here you are allowed to drive. So when I need something back from the function, I need to use the return. Sometimes I don't need anything from the function. For example, if I am just logging something, I don't need anything from the function. But if I need something back from the function, I need to use return. If I don't use return, my function will return undefined by default. Is the idea clear, Agnieszka? Yes?
Yes.
No. So you can think of the function as a machine. As a machine. So let's say you want chips. I mean, you eat chips, you like to eat chips. And some machine, you just have like a potato, fresh potato, you just put it in the machine. And after that, you are expecting to get your whatever you want. And here it will just take this one, it will process it. And after that, it will give you back whatever you want to. Simply like that. So that's what's called go in. This parameter go inside the function. And if you want something back from the function, you need to use the return. If you don't use the return, your function will return undefined by default. I think it's clear. Yes.
Yes.
Good. Now let's create something fun here. I will just create simple function, which is add, for example, or maybe multiply. Multiply, hopefully multiply is correct like that. Multiply here, it will take just two numbers. I will name them num1 and num2. So here I'm taking two parameters. I will create an arrow function, as you can see. And what this function here is doing, it will return, because I want something back from my function. It will return num1 multiplied by num2. So it should be fine. Now what I want to do here, I want to, for example, of course, I want to see the results. That's the reason why I'm using log. I want to multiply 2 by 3. And if I multiply 2 by 3, of course, it should give me 6, right? If I go to my code here, clicky, run, and it gives me 6, which is good. Now you told me what is JSDoc, right? Normally, when we write a function, we need to document our function. What is document our function? Well, document our functions, that means I need to describe what my function is doing. Of course, it will be good for me when I come back after, for example, 6 months or 8 months, I will not remember anything from my code. So I will need to document my functions, add some comment so I know what is this function doing. And also it will be useful for my colleague, because my colleague, when I write a lot of functions, they will not waste time coming to read the function, so they will understand what this function is doing. No, they just can read this comment, and after that, they will know what this function is doing. And if they need it, they can use it. That's what we name it, document a function. Is the idea clear, Agnieszka?
Yes, but in general, when you create the variable or the function name, you declare like the name that it's that you can that you know what does it mean actually.
Not
So
really,
why
not
do you need
really.
again and again create a
Not
comment?
really. Not
No?
really. Why? Because this function is simple. Sometimes you read a function like 13, 14 line. It's not always. Now this function is very simple. But now in the future, we will deal a little bit with more complex function. And even if the name is okay, I don't know, for example, yes, I know the name, but I don't know what parameter to pass. Is that a number here? Should I pass a number here? Or should I pass a string? Or should I pass a Boolean? Not always it will be clear. This one is clear because the function is very simple, but when the function gets a little bit complex, it's difficult actually. You got the point?
No. Yeah.
Okay. So what is JSDoc? Well, JSDoc here, I can just go click here and I will look for something called JSDoc. JSDoc, click. So if you go to JSDoc here, as you can see, get started with JSDoc. It's a way to document your function. So let me just maximize this one. I think here, something nicey. Do we have something nicey here? Yeah, something like that. So JSDoc, as you can see, it starts here with slash asterisk. Normally the comment in JavaScript /1 asterisk and then asterisk slash. But here with /2 asterisk, it has a meaning. Now you will see in VS Code, it will color it differently. That's what we call JSDoc. So first here, you need to write a sentence. What is this function doing? So here, what is the first one here, the first line here, you need to define what is your function doing. And the second line here, if you have any parameter, you say parameter. And inside the parameter here, parentheses, you need to put what type of data do you need to pass. Is it string? Is it a number? Is it a Boolean? Is it blah, 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 blah. And then here's the name of the parameter. And here you can give a little bit description for the parameter. And parameter here. And also at the end, you can add the return value. What does this function return? Does it return a number? Does it return an object? And blah, blah, blah. So I will share this website with you. You can go more to study more JSDoc. It's quite actually interesting. Clicky. But now let's try to document our function here, our simple function here. So as I told you, /2. As you can see here, it's directly my VS Code telling me it's JSDoc, right? If I enter like that, see, it's directly add all of these for me, as you can see. It adds a parameter here. What parameter do I need? Now one also the name of the parameter and everything. Now here I need to add a simple description in English what this function doing. So I can say multiply 2 numbers. So as you can see here, it's short, it's to the point. Anyone read it, even if he's not programmer, he will understand that this function, the purpose of this function is multiplying 2 numbers. Okay, now parameter 1 here. What type of parameter 1? Well, it's number, right? So I will add number like that. Parameter 2, what's the type of this one here? It is a number indeed. So I will just add number like that. Okay. Now here I have num1. I can add simply like that. Here I can just use the first number, and in here I will just add dash the second number. Okay, fine. And now as you can see, it's quite nice. But the return here, what does my function return? What's this function return?
Number.
The result.
Of course, number. No, but what type of data? I'm interested in type of data. So here it will return me a number, because simply if this one is number and this one is number multiplying to number, of course it will return me a number. So here we see returns number, and here it will be the product or the result of two numbers here, or multiplying to the product of multiplying, multiplying, I can't even write in English. Anyway, multiplying two number. So that's what we call GSDoc. That's how we document our function. Is the idea clear?
But is it very common that like the companies are using it, or it's
Of course,
yeah?
of course. All the function you're gonna write in the future, they must be documented. And
And
here,
what
of
does
course,
and what's Samir if we just put some comment, so some normal comment?
well, depend really on the teams. My previous company, they did not use GSDocs. They use, just like you said here, more description, just normal comment. But the most popular, to be honest, I mean, even in study, if you go to university, if you start your work, most of the time, a lot of developers use GSDoc. So with JavaScript, it's quite popular. So as I told you here, just /2*, and after that VS Code, it will help you. If you write your function and you say /dash, it will automatically add the parameter and return for you. The first line, actually, it's a good idea to make some space here. So the first line here, it will be in English, a short description, what the function is doing. And this function here, of course, what is my function is doing? It's multiplying two numbers. As you can see, short, everyone can understand it. Then parameter here, at parameter. By the way, this at is important. If you don't do it this way, it will not color your GSDoc. At param, number here, you need to pass what type of data, and the name of the param here is num1. Then what is that? It's the first number. Param, the second here inside curly brace, you need to add the type of data, which is number, num2, the second number, and of course the returns. Also, you need to add curly brace and what's the type of data here we are returning. Of course, if number multiplied by number, it will be a number. And here it will be the product of multiplying the two numbers, simply like that. Now, anyone reads this comment now does not really need to waste his time to go to the function. Now, the function now is small, but in the future, we'll write much more complex function. And maybe sometime you need to read like for 13 minutes to understand what the hell this function is doing. But if the function is documented, you don't need to do that. Just write what the function is doing, what parameter do you need, what type of data do you need, and voila. That's what we call GSDoc. That's what we call document your function. Is the idea clear? Yes, no.
Yes, but now the comment is longer than the function, so that's why it's a little bit weird. But yeah, I understand if the function will be more complicated, that make more sense.
Indeed, but now I'm just, because you are not used to function yet, I'm just choosing a simple example, as you said. But in the future, our function actually may be 20 line, maybe more, and it will be more complex. And instead of reading the function to know what it's doing, because I don't want to waste my time reading the function, it's someone else that wrote this function. I just want to know what this function is doing, what parameter I need, what will give me the result, and that's it. I think now GSDoc is very clear, if I am not mistaken. Yes, no.
Yes.
Good. Let me add my GSDoc here. I will not call the function here. Now let's go to the last part of the function, which will be testing my function. Now you need to understand now testing a function, when you write a function, testing a function is super important. Why? Because simply when you test your function, you make sure that the function works correctly or not. So testing a function in many companies, all the time you need to test your function. So what testing a function? Testing a function is just making sure that my function is working according to what I want to. Because sometimes when I write a function, yeah, it's work with something, but when I try something different, it doesn't work. That means my function is not good enough. But how can I test my function? Well, to test my function, we have a very popular library, which is called Jest. Jest is for JavaScript, of course. Jest, and we can use it also with framework React like that. So if I click on Jest here, I'm going to share with you also the link to Jest. So let me go to start. Where is start? Get start. And voila. I'll share with you just as well. Clicking, voila. So simply, how can I test my function? Well, here it will show you how can you use just blah, 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 all this stuff. What I'm really interested in here, let me go down to here. Now, of course, you don't need to know how this one, what this describe was test. I'll explain it, but simply you can just copy this one, copy like that, come here and paste it here, simply like that. So we have a block called describe. What is describe is doing? So describe simply, it's a function, describe here, it's a function in jest. What it's doing here is take two parameters. The first parameter, it will be like a message. What's this function you are trying to test? And the second parameter is arrow function. Let me remove for now this one here. Just describe. So describe here, I'm trying to describe my function. So here I'm gonna remove this message. This message must be good, well written. So describe is the function. I'm telling you, it's a function. It takes two parameters. The first parameter, it will be a message, a string to describe my function. And the second one, it will be a function. As you can see, it's arrow function. So here, what I'm trying to do, what is my function is doing? Can anyone tell me what my function is doing? It's multiplying two numbers, right? Yes, no?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so here in describe, as I told you, I'm writing a message here. What my function is doing? Well, it's multiplying two numbers. And the second parameter here, it will be an arrow function. Now, to test each cases, and I need to use something called test. That's how just work. I mean, that's how is the library work. So I will copy this test here. If you don't remember all the time, you can go to the library. It's okay. Click. Now, what the hell this one is doing here? So in test here, now I need to test my function here. So how can I test it? Well, I can just say simply like that. For example, I can just say multiply. Multiply. Now, if I multiply 0 with 5, what should it give me? Hello? 0?
0.
Of course, it should give me 0 with 5. So I'm writing my message. Now here, I'm expect that's how the library work. Of course, I'm not going to use the sum. I'm going to use my function, which is called multiply. So if I multiply the first parameter 0 and the second one is 5, what should the result be? So I'm
0.
expecting if I multiply 0 by 5, if my function working correctly, it should be equal to b or equal. I think to equal, if I'm not mistaken, to equal. Do I have any hint here? To equal. To equal. Of course, if you don't remember this one here, you can go to the library again and you'll find a lot of stuff here. It's something called matcher. So you can use to be with primitive data type and to equal with complex data type, or you can use to equal all the time. So here I'm just using to equal. So now that's my first test here. And of course, if this test, if my function working correctly, now here, if I multiply here 0 with 5, it should give me 0. Okay, so let's try to go here in our code. Refresh this one. Now, as you can see, I have my test here. Describe here, it's like a box. And here inside this describe, I can have multiple tests. Test is also, it take a message and it take an arrow function, just like describe. But describe, it can contain multiple tests. So this is what my function is doing. Now here I will write multiple tests, different tests. And here I'm expecting to, when I'm calling my function multiply 0 and 5 to be equal to 0. So let's run this one here. Unquote error describe is not defined. Yeah. What I need to do here.
Samir, we need to create another one file.
Yeah. So here I need to create a new file. Notice what's the name of the file here. It must be exactly the same, index.test.js. Voila. So the name of the test file here, it will be the same as the name of the file. That's very important. If you go read in the library, the name of the file here must be the same, then .test.js. And now here I know that this file is for testing this function. So I'm gonna take this one here. I'm gonna just copy this one, cut it, Go to my test, paste it here, and voila. But the problem is I don't have my function here, right? Do I have my function here?
Oh,
No, so now I need to import my function. So what I can do here, I can just go to this function here, and I can add a keyword called export. And export mean I want you to export, give this function to any other file if you want to. And now when I write here export, I can now import my function here. So how can I import it? Well, it's quite simple. All I have to do, I just have to say import, and I need to add curly brace, and as you can see, multiply from which one? From dot slash, not dot slash, from dot slash index dot js. Dot slash because it's both of them are in the same folder. And hopefully now it will work. Let's refresh. Of course, that's my function. I don't care about it. I'm just exporting my function. Now I need to go to this one. Where is my testing? I need to refresh and go, where is my testing? Voila. Now let's go to test here and let's hit format. It will format it. Let me save the changes and clicky and hit run. I still cannot use import statement outside of module. Doesn't give me here. What I need to do, let me create a file, index dot HTML. Let me do this one like that, and here let's link our file, our script. So it will be script type module, and here it will be dot slash index.js. I'm not sure I can use it this way. Let's see. Clicking, run. Cannot use. Thank you. Let's add another script. And here, let's try to import our index.test.js. Let's see. Clicking, run. Yeah, it's giving me a problem here. I cannot use import here outside of a module. But you will not have this problem. I think if I move my code inside another function, it will work here. Unit testing, let's click here. Let's take the example. Let's copy this one. Yeah, let's copy this one and it should work actually. I'm gonna copy my function here, copy everything. I'm gonna put it here. And in here, I don't need to export it because it will be in the same file. And I can run my test here and I don't need to import it anyway. Let's click in here. Let's add like that. And here it shouldn't be any problem, hopefully. Let me delete this one. Do not worry, in study instances, you will not have this problem. Clicky. And let me delete this file. I don't need it. So it is in unit testing example. Refresh. I click on this one and refresh. Unit testing example, and you have running test code. That's my function here. So let me open my dev tools. Refresh. I should have something. Voila. And as you can see here, it's telling me here. So this guy here, multiply two number, is coming, this message is coming from describe. So describe, as you can see now, it's contained my first test, which is, it will tell me pass or failed. Now, if I put, for example, not 0, I put 2, notice what will happen now. If I save it and try to run it, oh, no, sorry. If I hit run, see, it's telling me failed. So it will here, it will show me it's failed here. It does not pass because simply 0 multiplied by 5, it's not equal to 2. And voila. So now the first test is passed. Now I need to add another test. So let me copy this one. Let me add this one like that. Voila. So after that, it will be just copy pasting, no more than that. If you put describe here, and then here you will copy paste test, you can add as much as you want to. Let's hit format to format it. Now here, I need to try with another number here. Let's try with, for example, 23 multiplied by 10. How much it give me? 230, right? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay, let's try it again. Why I'm hitting save format? Clicky. Yeah, I've saved the changes. Let's hit run our test. And as you can see, both of them pass. So multiply 0 by 5. You can, by the way, you can even do this one. Should give me the result, which is 0. And like that, it will be easy for you to know which test go wrong. Here, it should give me 230. It's just a message, but I mean, like that, it will be easy for you in case one test failed to go and find it. Because normally we have a lot of tests. Run, and as you can see here. Okay, now let's try to test with something different a little bit. Clicky. And with this one, now here, let's try to multiply string 23 like that. And because I have single quote, I need to add double quote, otherwise it will not work. And if I multiply this one with 1, how much I'm expecting to give me? Yes. If I multiply a string with 1, what should it give me?
231.
Are you sure? And we are multiplying now.
Yeah, but there is a string.
I know. And that's my point.
23.
Concatenation.
It's given error.
It should give an error actually. Why? Because here my function is not designed to deal with strings. It's only designed to work with numbers. So what I can do here in my function actually, as you can see here, my functions are just like that now, because if I want to run this test, let's run this test here. So here, make it a string. Here it should be just 1. And here's the result here. I don't know what would you say, for example, 230 or 23 or whatever you want to. Actually, it should give me 23, but let's see. Format. Let's try to run our test here. Actually, it passed. Why? Because it gave me 23, but it's actually not correct. Why? Because 23 here string, what we're going to do, it will multiply the string by 1, it will give me the same string. But is this function correct? No, because as you can see, we are passing a string here, even if it passed, but that's mean my function needs some work. What should I do? I shouldn't have a string as a parameter, because my function, as you can see, I only should be able to pass numbers. What should I do? Well, I can just add a condition, right? I can just say if. How could I know if it's num1 is a number or not? We have an operator to check the type of a variable, right?
Type of.
Yes, so if type of num1 is not equal to number as a string, or type of num2 is not equal to a number. So if one of them is not a number, then I need to do something. I need to do something. So I can here throw, that's how we throw an error in JavaScript. Throw new error. Or here actually it will be, what's the error here? Is a type error. So throw type error, and type error here you can add here we're just throwing an error. So in JavaScript we can throw an error. We say throw type error, and I will say please no, here we can just say one at least one of the parameter is not a number. Voila. Click now here. And now my function is much better now. Let's try to do it again here. So let's format it, save the changes, and try to run here, run. And as you can see, it failed now. That's what I want to actually. Why? Because simply here, this function here, I should not allow anyone to enter a string. I'm only allowed to pass numbers. So here I'm expecting to be type error. At least one of the parameter is not. So what will this function return here? It should return actually type error. So here I can return here.
Yeah, and Samir,
Mm.
even you can write here, line number 62 to be error. Instead of to
60
be equal,
yeah,
instead
type
of
error.
you can write type here. Yeah.
Let's see. Let's hit format. And now let's hit run. Still failing. At least one of the, I think type error, but I need to pass the message if I'm not mistaken. Type error. Let's see here. Format. And let's run. Why is failing?
No. Not to be to equal to error. There is another one property to error.
Yeah, there is another matcher which is called to. Let me check the matcher. I don't remember the matcher. What was the matcher name?
To error, I think.
No, I don't think we have something called to error. To throw error actually. Throw.
Yeah, throw error.
Throw. Throw error. So let's see here. To throw. As you can see, to throw new error here. So I need to just to change the matcher here. So here instead of to be, it should be this one. And instead of where is it? It was here. Yeah. So I need to change the matcher actually. Click to throw type error like that, and I should pass if I'm not mistaken. Let's hit format, save changes, and click in, and I still have a problem. Why? To throw type error. Let's just do this one, throw type error. Without anything, see if that will pass or not. Expect this one to throw type error, but type error here, actually, it should. Let's see what I'm missing here. Expected token. Yeah, do I need something like that? To throw this one. Actually, I don't need anything here. Let me write it from the beginning. Now it's okay. Expect to throw type error. Let's see. It look like that should be okay. Expected multiply here 23 to throw a type error. Let's see. Refresh. Run, and voila, now it's passed, as you can see. Voila. So when we have an error here, you need to change the matcher. That's what we call the matcher. To equal, to be, we have a lot of them, by the way. To throw, when you have an error, to throw, and you need to say type error. That's it. This error here, you don't need to pass the message only. And voila. So like that, as you can see, testing my function helped me to make or to write a better function. Now, if anyone try now to pass anything but numbers, it will just throw this error. Let's try to do something else, for example. Let's copy this one and try to do this one, voila. And here I will just try to pass multiply, for example, true with 1, for example. And here, it's a Boolean, of course, as you know. I can just say true, and here with 1, and of course, I am expecting it to throw a new error, right? And here, if I go here, refresh, and go to my test here, as you can see, test 1, 2, 3, run, and as you can see, it's passing now. So indeed, everything is okay. Now here, throw type error, and voila. Is the idea clear? Yes or no?
Not really.
Why?
Because like at the beginning you created like 2 files with the test, after that it didn't work, so you copy paste somewhere else, and like now I'm like missed everything.
Okay, to miss everything here, it's just because I created them in testing here. Now, for you, when you create them inside the example, this example already, they are connected to index.html type module. So the reason why it's throwing an error here, because I did not connect it with, all the time I told you, if you cannot use export and import, if the type of source inside your index.html is not type module. But in here, what I am doing here, inside this, I can do it, by the way, again here. I think if I'm not mistaken, let's just copy this one so we don't confuse Agnieszka. Here, let me just rename it. I don't think it will work, but I need to rename this one. I need to rename it to index.test.js. So all the test files I need to, as you can see, start with index.test.js. Here, I'm not using export and import, Agnieszka. Because I'm not using export and import, it will not throw any error. So let's refresh here. Let's go here, the same file we are doing. I need to refresh to get the new file. Click, click. And now here, let's just format it here. It is formatted, open it. And now let's just run, and voila, it's working as well. So the idea here, if your file end with test.js, even the icon, as you can see in VS Code, is changing, that means here you are allowed to write some test. So I have a simple function. My function is here, and I want to test my function. But how can I test my function? Well, to test my function, we have a nice library, which is called Jest. Now, Jest, you don't really need to understand everything for now about Jest. Just know that when you try to test your function, first, you need to add everything inside a box called describe. Why? Because the creator of these libraries, that's how it works. I mean, he explained how it works, as you can see. I need to add describe, and describe already, this library understand what describe means. So describe take two parameters. As you can see, the first parameter, it will be a message. And this message should explain what my function is doing. And the second parameter should be a function. Normally, we use arrow function. And in here, if I want to test anything, I need to add the keyword test. And also, it's take two parameter, a message, which explain what my test is doing, and then an arrow function. And here, I need to use expect keyword, pass something, use my function, of course, pass something, and I'm expecting it to equal something. But clear, Agnieszka, or not?
Yeah, but what's the difference between the testing and the debugger? Because we can check in the debugger.
No, debugger is allow you to go through your code to see what is your code doing, what if it's not working. But here, this test here, we are testing our function to make sure that our function work correctly with all different scenario or not. Because when you write a function, it may work with 3-4 scenario, for example. Now here, before I make this test, I didn't know that I need this line of code because I could, for example, pass, anyone can pass string here by mistake. And if he passes a string, it will give him a result, and the result is not correct. But when I wrote my test here, and I've seen, and then I discover, oh, maybe by mistake, someone will add, for example, a string as a parameter. Maybe he doesn't know. He just did not read this one. By mistake, one of the colleague, he just passed a string. And here, this function, it will not throw an error. It will give him a result, as that means this function not working correctly. So did you get my idea?
Mm-hmm.
Do not
And it's
worry.
only for the functions or for the other stuff too, like for, I don't know, if statement or
No.
No?
So testing, most of the time we use it with function, most of the time. Now we can, if you go to the library here, most of the time we use it to test our function. We can also test when we call an API, we use a function, of course. When you call an API, that means you call the backend to some data. We also can test this to see if it's working or not, but most of the time we test our function because our function do something. So the most action, what is happening in your JavaScript, it will be the function, because the other one, it will be just some data, object arrays, primitive data. So just some data. What's doing the whole work, it will be actually function. Is the idea clear?
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. But don't worry, you have 3 weeks more to learn testing. I'm not expecting you to learn from the first time what is testing here. I just want you to understand what's the purpose of the testing. And of course, Even sometimes I make mistake when I wrote those. All you have to do, just go to the library. I did not create the library. I don't know how it works. So I need to go to the library, and that will be a habit for you, because every time you need to learn a library, you need to go to the documentation, and then after that, see what the library is doing. I mean, that's how we learn. So if I click on here, I don't know anything. It will tell me how to install the library. It will tell me how to, if I want to test my my function, I have something called test. This is, and it take 2 parameters. As you can see, when I read, it explain everything for me. I don't know how the function, the library work, because simply I didn't write it. So all the time I need to go to the documentation to see. And in the documentation, it explain everything. Of course, you need to read. And as you can see, I just copy paste those, and here I duplicate all these tests and I try with different scenario. Is the idea clear for everyone? Yes, no. Silent. Adil.
A little bit.
Okay, a
Yes.
little bit.
For
A little
fun.
bit is good. A little bit is good. It's fine. Now, after I explain function, document your function using GSDoc, also how to test your function. Now let's go to the example to see. Click this one, click this one. We have some example. So we need to go through this example to try to explain it. It's 10:14. So let's go to the lesson plan, function and unit testing, and let's go to function here. Of course, I'm going to explain the example, and after that, you need to do the exercise. After that, here, how to document your function, and then how to test your function. I've explained everything, but we will go through some example. Let me go to study lenses here. I've shared just with you already. I've shared GSDoc with you already. I'm going to close this one. I'm going to close this one. I'm going to close this one. I need this one. So let me refresh this one, and let me go to lesson plan. Function and unit testing function. Let's go to the first example. Definition and calling. So what the hell is definition and calling? As I told you, when we create a function, we have 2 steps. First, I need to tell JavaScript that this is a function, as you can see here. So that's our function. This is a function. And now, if I want to see the result of the function, I need to call the function, as you can see. So that's simply what they are trying to explain. I think it's simple if I'm not mistaken. And now I'm expecting here, I'm calling the function 3 times. I'm expecting to see I exist 3 times. Run it. Voila. Clear?
Yes.
Should be simple, this one. Second one, parameter and argument. I told you what's the difference between parameter and argument as well. Simply when you tell JavaScript, this is the function, we call these guys parameter. When I call the function, we call this guy what you are passing argument. That's the difference between the two. So here I have a function. What doing this function? It's just telling me what's the type of the parameter, and it's logging the parameter. So here, of course, here it will log type of this 4 here. It will be string, and the parameter here, it will be 4 as a string. 4.0, it will be a number, and here it will type 4.0. This one here is string, and it will type for this one. Argument 1 is true, log the parameter. So here, I can, by the way, here, as you can see, I'm just saving true in a variable, and I'm passing the argument here, which is true. It's the same if I'm passing true here, because I just save it in a variable and I'm passing it here. It's the same. Same with null, same with undefined. So it will check what type of true. Of course, it's a Boolean, and it will type true. What type of null? What type of null?
Object.
Yeah, I know, but the others, they should know the type of null is an object. It will just log null. What type of undefined?
Undefined.
Undefined, and it will log undefined. And here I'm calling my function with no parameter. If I call it with no parameter, what it will give me?
Undefined.
Undefined, most probably, because here it will be undefined. So let's run our code and see what's going on. It's something simple, clicky. So as you can see, it will give me all of that, what type of them, object, null, undefined, undefined. And lastly, if you pass nothing, here, the parameter, it will be undefined. And of course, type of undefined, it will be undefined, and voila. I think that should be simple. Return value. Agnieszka, you asked this question. Well, if you want something from your function, you need to return something. And you need to understand something very important. After the return statement, you are not allowed to have any code. Because what return is doing here, it will return the value, and it will, as you can see, this line of code here, it is in different color because it will never be executed. Why? Because it's come after the return. If we want it to be executed, you need to move it before the return. So after the return, you are not allowed to add any code. Is the idea clear? Yes? No?
Yeah.
Okay, now if I log this one, it takes the parameter, it just tell me what's the type of the parameter. So here it will tell me it's a number. And of course, this one, this log, it will never be executed. So let's just execute it. It's the same function. Clicky, voila. It's telling me it's number, string, object, undefined, and undefined. Because here is undefined, I'm passing nothing. Notice this line of code, it will never be executed. Why? Because it's coming after the return. If I want it to be to execute it, well, I just can move it before the return. I think that's simple as well, right? Yep. No, maybe. Guys, I feel like I'm
Yes.
explaining to myself. I mean, just interact a little bit. Tracing execution. So if I want to trace the execution here, okay. I've explained this one already as well, but let's debug this code here and let's go in here. Now, what will happen here? Notice if I try to execute this function, let's go step by step. Click. Now it will go to my function. Notice it does not go inside the function, huh? It does not go inside the function. So it will just say this one. It just, I'm telling the JavaScript, this is the function, that's it. Now, when I call the function, then it will go inside the function, it will execute it. So here in this step, it's just telling JavaScript this is the function. But now, as you can see, I'm calling my function with two parameters A and B, and notice what will happen. Click. So it go inside the function. What is parameter one? It's B. I'm sorry, parameter two is B. Parameter one is A. It will add B and A, and the result, of course, it will be BA, as you can see. So if I click on this one, now it returns a value here, which will be BA. And of course, here I can just test this one. I can make an assertion. You know what an assert? I told you console.assert just to check if two values are the same or not. So in assertion, if the value is true, it will give you nothing. If the value is false, it will throw an error. Of course, now, as you can see, the result is BA is strictly equal to BA. So the result here, it will be true. And because it's true here, this assertion, it will throw nothing. It will just pass. Voila. We use assertion for simple testing to check if the value here, it's the same value we are expecting or not. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, this one is the same. So yeah. Of course, you know what's the purpose of these two button. So this one step by step, it will go step by step through all your program. Here, if I don't want to go inside the function, if I have next function, I can click on this one, so it will jump over the function. Here, if I want to go inside the function, or in case I have a bug in my function, here, if I want to exit the function. So that's what I'm trying to explain here. Yeah, nothing else. Debugging function, so same idea. If you want to debug the function here, as I told you, you want to go inside the function, you can use the step to debug the function in case you want to. So let's debug. And now, of course, if I hit resume to go to the debugger, it will step here because I have a debugger statement. Notice the function will never be executed because here it's just a function. I'm telling JavaScript this is a function. It will go here, it will stop directly here. So click. It will just tell that's the function, then it will go inside here, as you can see, debugger. Now here, when I call the function, now it will go inside the function. Voila, see, it's going inside the function. That's how JavaScript work. And here now it will return me the value. And here, step here, voila. So here it show you which step it will happen first. That was step one. Here, of course, it will just read the functions, and that was step two. And then after that step two, because I'm calling the function, that will be step three. So it will go step four. I'm calling the function again. It will go inside the function again. It will be step five, and so on. Then six, and then voila. Is the idea clear?
Yes.
Should be simple as well. Yeah, debugging function. This one actually quite important. Some of you asked me before, what's the difference between var and const and let, right?
Yes.
I told you before, const and let there are block scope. What do I mean by that? For example, if I say true, and here I declare a variable, say with const or let, doesn't matter. Const hi, it's equal to hello. Now this, I'm declaring this variable inside this block. So the block is curly brace here. It doesn't matter what it is, if it's if block or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. The most important thing here is I have curly brace and curly brace. This function here, oh, I'm sorry, this variable here, it will only be defined inside this curly brace, this block. So if I try to access this variable outside of this curly brace, it will not exist. Because I declare this variable inside this block, it will only exist here. It lives only here. It will be known this value only here. If I try to access it here, it will give me an error because this variable does not exist outside of this block. That's the reason we call const and let, they are block scopes. That means if I block scopes, they have curly brace, that means they only live inside this block scope. Is the idea clear with const and let? And why we call them block scope?
Yes.
But if I use var and say var name is equal to hello, well, var here, even I declare it inside this block, it will be known I can access it outside of this block because var is not a block scope. It's a function scope. What do I mean by function scope? That means if I declare var inside the function, it will only be known inside the function, but it must be function. Okay? In my case here, only inside the function. That's why we call var its function scope. So if it's inside the function, if I declare a variable inside the function, it will only live inside the function. But if it's anything else like if or blah, blah, or any other block, it will not respect that. I can access it outside of this block. And that means here var, it will be able to access it outside of this block. And sometimes that causes trouble because maybe I came here and I don't know that var is a function scope and not a block scope. I came here and I try to declare by mistake another variable with name. And like that, I have two variables with the same name, and one variable overrides another variable, and I will have a bug. So do you now understand what's the difference between var and const and let?
So the scope is only in if statement, in the function, it doesn't matter.
The scope is this curly brace here.
Okay, but in the function you have also the curly braces, so it works
Yes.
actually the same?
Yes. Now the function is the same here. If I declare const, let, var, all of them, they will only be known inside the function. But the var is special because var only if I declare it inside a function, it will be known inside the function. But if I declare it inside something else, for example, if I also have curly brace here, as you can see, but var here, I can access it. So it will be known not just here, it will be, I can access it outside as well. But with const or let, no, just their block scope here. It doesn't matter what this one, it's a function, it's if block, it's whatever it is, it doesn't matter. With const and let, as long as I have curly brace like that, it will only exist inside this curly brace. Var, no. Only if it is function, it will exist only inside this here. But if it's not a function, here I can access it outside. And sometimes to access it outside, it causes a problem. Because as I told you, let's say I don't know that this var here, it will be known also, it will live outside of this scope. And I declare another variable with the same name. I will have a bug. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So again, const and let, they are block scope. It doesn't matter what this one is. If it's f or function or blah, blah, it doesn't matter. The most important thing I have curly brace, even if it's just curly brace like that, even without anything. If I declare const here, it will only be known inside this block. And that's much better for programming. Because like that, if I declare another variable, hi, it will not make any bug because this variable only exists here. And here I will have no bug. But if I do that with var, and var is not a block scope, it must be a function here. With function is not a problem, but if I use it with just a block here with if, something like that, and I'm not aware of that, and I declare another variable, with whatever I want to, even if I use const here and I declare the variable. Notice here now I have two variables and I don't know that because here I have a variable. This variable exists outside of the scope because it's not a block scope. And I will have two variables here. And here it will throw an error. Why? Because I already have a variable here. And here I'm trying to declare another variable. Is the idea clear? Yes or no? Hello?
Mhm.
Yes, Adil, no.
Yes.
With cost, yeah, but with var, no.
Sorry, Adil?
With const, yeah, I understand the scope, the
Hmm.
everything. But what is the difference? I mean, with var.
Okay, let me make it simple. Let me just comment this one for now. Okay, now as you can see, Adil, here, I just have a block scope. It doesn't matter, it's just a block scope here. Now, if I try to log high, let's try to log high, console.log high, to see if high exists or not. Console.log variable high. And now let's do the same, console.log the variable name. Click, like that. Let's go in here and try to run our code to see what's happening. Notice this code only here. If I run my code, notice what it's still high is not defined. So high, it's not defined. Why? Because high only exists here in this block. Do you get my point?
Yeah, so var that exists inside and outside the scope.
Yes. So if I try now name, let's remove this one so I don't get this error. So I can move, show you the next one. Var here, if I click run, just give me hello. That's a problem. Why is the problem? Because let's say I have a lot of code here. I don't know var is a function scope. It's not a block scope. And I came here and I declare another variable. Let's use it with let. Let name, it's equal to John, for example. And here I came and log name. So let's console.log name, console.log name. Now here, remember, I don't know. Now here I'm expecting, because the name here, let's say, I'm expecting to be hello. But when I run my code, name has, see, it gave me an error. Why it's giving me an error? It's telling me you already declare a name. You have two variables here. Okay, but if it will just throw an error. Why? Because I already have a variable here. So var is already exists. I can access var in anywhere I want to. And that's something not good in programming, because why? Because it's an error first, and also sometimes it's, let's say so for some reason, some developer, junior developer came and just do this one here. And this is for, let's say it's not hello, it's amount of money. And here another amount of money. Here I'm expecting, for example, 100 euro, and here is 10 euro, for example. If I run it here, it gave me John, but that's wrong. It's not John, actually. It's hello, right? So as you can see, with var, it's not a block scope. So it's kind of it's known everywhere. And thus, it introduced a lot of bugs like that. It's not a good idea to use var. It's better like that to use const, because even if I declare another variable with const, it will not give me an error. Is the idea clear? So const
yes.
and let, const and let are block scope, but var, notice now, if I create a function, if I say function, hello, and now I put this one here, and here I came, for example, and I say console.log name, I will not declare this name. If I call the function or I don't call it, it doesn't matter, actually. Let's not call the function, and let's try to run this one. Of course, it will log nothing here, as you can see. Why? Because yes, var here is function scope. When it's function here, only when it's function, it will only be known here. I cannot access it outside. Is the idea clear, Adel? So var
Yes.
is function scope, but const and let is not, it doesn't matter, it's just block scope, as long as I have curly braces. It's always better to use const and let instead of var, because var sometimes create a lot of issue, a lot of bugs. Let's reset. Voila. Should be clear now if I'm not mistaken. Of course, return, as I told you, if you need something from the function, you need, of course, to return. So for example, here, what type of parameter? Here, it will give me what type of parameter. I'm returning it, so it will give me to me. And I'm using console.log just to show you the type of parameters. That should be simple now. What else? Lexical scope, I did explain this one, of course, lexical scope. Now, with const and lit, they are block scope here, as long as they have curly brace. It doesn't matter if it's function, if it's if block, even if it's just curly brace. But with var, as I told you, it must be a function here. Only its scope, its function scope. Don't use var at all the time. Use const and lit, it's better. That should be fine now with function, it should be easy. Now, how can we document our function? I told you it's quite simple. We normally use GSdoc. We will go quickly to see some example. So here it explains GSdoc, some link here to GSdoc. As you can see, I've already shared with you the library. And here, for example, I have a function here, find the type. It's just to find type of variable. So as you can see here, it returns the type of any JavaScript value. So here, the first line, it should give me in English what this function is doing. And do I need parameter? Yes, add parameter. Here, parameter any mean it could be any type. So if that, it doesn't matter string or number or whatever, you can put any. Any mean you can pass any data type. What is the name of the parameter is value, and as you can see, minus the value to check. And here, what does it return here? It should return a string, the type of the parameter, because all the type actually, even its number, if I check any type, it will return as a string. I'll show you what do I mean. If I say type of 1, which is number, see, it's giving me number, but as a string. If I say type of null, it will give me an object, but as a string. Type of undefined, it will give me undefined, but as a string. And so on and so on and so on. So all the times the type here, the type operator, it will return you the type, but as a string, as you can see. Is it clear? That's the reason why we say it return a string. Yeah?
Yes.
Good. Same here, just another example here, as you can see. You have more parameter, and here, if, of course, depending on the parameter here. Yeah, I'll explain more GSdoc. I think it should be clear for now. Here, reverse the string, parameter string, and return also the string. Don't forget to add a small description, here. That's simply it. I think it's quite clear now. We don't need to waste any time. You have some exercises and you need to write the GSdoc for them. You need to document your function. The last one, which is testing. Now, testing, I realize testing is not easy as the first time. But don't worry, because we're going to repeat them for 3 weeks, so it will become after that super simple. Important note, all the time your test file must end with test.js. It's a JavaScript file, but it's, if I say test, then just library know that it is for testing and it can run it. So here you a lot of blah, 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 blah. What they simply is telling you here, you can use describe. And describe here, I told you, it's just like a box. Inside describe, I can put a lot of tests here. So you can use it or test. For me, I normally prefer to use test. You can use it if you want to. There's no difference between it and test. It's the same idea exactly. So here you can write test if you want to. For me personally, prefer test. Some people even use it. Both of them are the same, no different. So they take 2 parameters here, which is as a message here you will pass. Message must be good, because sometimes if some tests go wrong and you don't have a good message, you don't know which one is going wrong. So here it should be good message. And then here take just an arrow function here, expect true to equal true to equal. I told you we have a lot of matcher, not just to equal or to be or to throw an error. You can also use to be greater than or equal, or to be truthy. How can I know all these matcher? Well, again, you can just go to jest. And if you go to jest, you have something called matcher. Doc. So I'm using matcher, as you can see, and you can see here we have to be, and it's explain each one what it's doing here. To equal, to be, which we use it most of the time with primitive type truthiness. So you can use here to be null. So as you can see, you can use this matcher to be null. That means you expect it to be null. To be defined, that means it will be defined value. It will not be undefined. You have a lot of matcher. To be truthy, to be falsy when you convert it to a Boolean. Where with number we used to be greater than or equal, to be less than. You have a lot of matcher again. Here to match with string, not to match. With array and iterator, you can use also to contain. So this one must be inside the array. With exceptions, that means error, to throw an error, to throw a message here, you can use all of them. So that's most of the matcher here. All of them are here. Of course, it depends what you are using here. So for example, if you are using common matcher, most of the time we used to be or to equal, to be if with primitive type, to equal with complex or reference type. But there's another matcher here. For truthiness, if you are trying to convert a value to Boolean, you can use this matcher as well. With numbers, you can use those. With string, you can use those. With array, you can use this to contain if you want to. With error, you can use those. And you have some more. If you click on this one, it will give you even more here. Is the idea clear? Yes, no?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Again, you can use it or test. For me, personally, I prefer test. Remember, describe here, it do nothing. It just make like a box. And here is inside this box, you can have multiple tests. The test normally either start with it or test. And here, take two parameters just like describe. As the first parameter here in description, what you are trying to do, for example, true is equal to true. Try the message to be very nice here. It must be very descriptive because one of them go wrong. So like that, you find which one. Here we are using to equal. Here, because it's a number to be greater than or equal to. Indeed, actually, it's two greater than 3. Because 3 is greater than 2. To be truthy, why? Because if I convert 3 to truthy or falsy, it will be truthy or falsy. If I convert 3 to truthy or falsy, it will be truthy or falsy.
Truthy?
Of course, truthy. All numbers are truthy except 0. But for me, that's not a good message. Here, you can just see 3. You can just write like that, expect 3 to be truthy. And like that here, this message is more defined. If something go wrong like that, you will know which one here go wrong. And if I now run my test, as you can see here, that's what describe is doing. So describe, it's just like a box. Describe is not doing anything actually. It just prints this message and it's like box. As you can see, I can click it and open it and close it, open it and close it. That's what describe is doing. But so here's that my test. And if your message is descriptive, expect 3 to be truthy, you can find it directly here. And voila, simply like that. Of course, if the test pass, it will be green and like that. If it does not pass, it will show you the error and you will try to fix it. Should be simple. And of course, you have just all the time you can go back to see different matcher. So here is trying to explain how the structure work. We already know that. So here we are expecting actual. So actual here, it will be what return from my function to be equal to empty string. Same idea, some test here. So here I have a function just like I did to reverse the string. I'm calling my function to try to reverse an empty string. If I reverse an empty string, it will be an empty string. If I reverse A, B, C, D, I'm expecting it to be E, D, C, B, 1, right? If I'm reversing 1, 3, 3, 7, it should give me 7, 3, 3, 1. This one, it should be the same here. And so on. If I reverse this one, should be like that. And as you can see, I have all my tests inside one describe here. And this describe telling me what this function is doing. Reverse any string. And now if I try to run my test, clicky, all of them are passing. Voila. Any question? Of course, you can fix some bugs here also. Let's try to do this one. Run. As you can see, one of my tests passed nothing. one of my tests is not passing here. I have an error now. I try to fix it. So I need to know what the hell is this function doing. It's reversing a string. But this function, as you can see here, I'm not passing anything. So how can I fix this problem? Can anyone tell me how can I fix this problem?
Debugger?
Okay.
No.
So as you can see here, I am expecting this one, as the test is written for me, TSET. So I need to pass a value here. When I reverse this value, it should give me this value. What should this value be?
Test.
Empty string.
Of course, it will be test. So if I reverse test, it will be TSET, right? And if I run, I pass, voila. It's not difficult.
But there is a pass nothing, so it shouldn't be empty string
And
in the description.
Agnieszka.
Yeah.
Pass nothing here. It's there is a bug. We try to fix this bug. So if I try to run this one here, this one is failing. So expect, as you can see, expect value to be equal. I'm expecting TSET to be equal to empty string. So it give me empty string. Why it give me an empty string? Because I can just add, for example, if I'm passing nothing here, I can add this one like that. As that's what we call default parameter. It will be an empty string. But the problem is, what do I want here? As you can see, so they are giving me this value. I want to pass something to my function, but I want to be equal to this one, which is TEST. Remember what this function is doing, it reverses the string. That means I need to pass a string to my function. If I reverse this string, it should give me this one. So how can I do it? Well, it's quite simple. I start with T, and then I have E and T, voila. And now here my function, if I pass this test to my function, it will give me this one. So here I need to pass something, which if I reverse it to give me this one, they already give me the result. So I have no other option.
But why it's in description pass nothing in the string? Because before it's reverse all sorts of crazy things, and after that you have crazy things, and here you have pass
because
nothing.
Pass nothing because we are passing nothing to my function, as you can see. So pass nothing because I am passing nothing to my function. But
So
what
we
you
should
need to
change expect to empty string or not?
no. I'm telling here is what's the name of file? Fixing bug. So I have a bug. I have a problem. I need to fix it. So what I need to do here, I need to pass test. And after that, when I come, I need to remove this one. And here I can just say reverse test.
Okay.
It should be TSET. Voila. And now everything is good. It was a bug here. So the idea was you need to try to fix this bug.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, test early and often. Here is just some stuff here. You need to test a lot of time because testing help you to write better functions, simply like that. What the hell this function is doing? It's also reversing a string with GSDoc all the time. So when you write a function, you need, of course, to write GSDoc, as you can see. And after that, you need to write some tests. To write the test, of course, you need to write the script, describe. Here's the message what the function is doing. And then you need arrow function. You can just copy paste it. It's fine for now. I'm not expecting you to know the structure. And after that, you will have one test. You can copy paste, and after that, change the value. So here, if I pass empty string to my function, which is reverse a string, it should give me every empty string. If I pass A, B, C, D, it's same idea. If I pass this one, if I pass this one, if I pass this one, it will just reverse it. And simply here, if I am running this one, everything pass. So what they are trying to tell you, it's a good idea all the time to try to test most often. Now, in practical life, we have a different concept here. Now, some people first write the function, then write test, and then test it. There's a second approach, which is you write the test first, then the function. Of course, these two approaches, both of them are used in the industry. Now, this one, I would say if the function is quite simple for complex, if that's not that complex, it will work fine. So we call this one TDD. TDD stand for test driven test driven development. Test driven development, that's mean test driven development. It's mean we are writing test first, then we are writing the function. The second approach, we are writing our function first, then we are writing our test. Which one is better? Well, I would say it depends on the company. Some company use TDD, some company write function first. But TDD is nice if the subject is not very complex. If the website is complex, I don't think TDD is suitable. But again, there's two approach, approach one and approach two. Is the idea clear? Yes.
Yes,
No?
yes, Samir, and I have a question. So we write test for our code, and in company before deployment, also we have testers who will check our code later.
That's a good question, actually. So these tests, we call them unit testing. Unit testing is the developer doing that. That's job of the developer to do the unit testing. But after that, the tester, what they are testing here, they are testing just the functionality, if everything is working, if everything is not working, testing if everything is fine. But the unit testing, normally the developer does that to test our function. So those guys here, we call them unit testing. Unit testing is job of developer. The other testing here, they are not testing really if the function is working or not. They're just testing the website if everything is okay or not. Yeah?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. There is also, we have end-to-end testing, by the way. We have some software, which is also job of developer, some software which can test everything in your code. I think there is a framework which is quite popular, which is called
Cypress.
Cypress?
Yeah.
Cypress, let's see. Cypress, no. What do we call it? I remember I had a. Just give me a second, because I write something in. I was planning to write something about this one. Let me go to organization here. Logic REST. Next. Yeah, Cypress here. So what Cypress is doing here is another software. It's actually not for beginner here. It's for more experienced developer. So what this guy is doing here is another framework to test everything from what's we call test end to end. That means it will test everything. But then again, now for you, it's just a library here, just like a jest. But this one, as I told you, test everything. Also, job of developer, and I'm planning actually to write course about that as well, but not now, later on. But for now, if you know unit testing, just here, it's actually I already have some. I've already wrote some stuff about jest, so maybe you can check this library. It's not. I think it's fine. You can check this one. I've already wrote some example in detail, if I'm not mistaken, example 1 to example 10. So as you can see here is some example, and then there's some unit testing here. And yeah, you can check it actually, it will be good. I totally forgot about this one. Okay, that's what we call unit testing. And also you have end-to-end testing. We use also a library which is called Cypress. I don't think I've write anything about Cypress, but in the future I'm planning to do so. But it's not for beginner. If as a beginner, you know, unit testing is good enough. Is the idea clear? Any question about for loop or function and unit testing? Yeah. Yes.
No question.
Again, I've shared
Maybe-
with you. Yeah.
Maybe we can make a pause because my brain are burning.
I know everything is new. It's okay, but don't worry, it's fine. I just want to show here. Yeah, this one is really nice actually for you. You can go through it. It explains a lot of stuff. I think how to install it, how to install jest, how to run test. It's also explain different matcher here. It's also, but don't test asynchronous code. Don't study this one here because We will study it later, how to test our asynchronous code. Okay, guys, let's take a break 20 minutes, and after that, we will come back. When we come back, I've already explained for loop and function and unit testing in detail. I'm expecting from you to finish for loop everything inside, come to function and unit testing, finish everything. And if you have more time, of course, asserting primitive and operator control flow function unit testing. Now you know everything here. Now enjoy your break. We will be back at 11:10. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
See you.
Enjoy.